When it comes to providing your customers efficiency with Compute Engine, there's several factors you need to look at from a cost perspective. One of the things about any Google Cloud exam, whether it's the Cloud Architect or it's the Data Engineer or the Cloud Engineer, is that they're going to expect you to understand the billing approaches that are used for VMs, but also some of the tools that you could use to help mitigate costs. So let's go ahead and talk about that. When it comes to GCP, there's a lot of similarities to AWS. And for those folks that know AWS, I hope this chart sort of helps clear up a few things. When it comes to billing and pricing, Google and AWS do bill per second. Now, Google bills for a minimum of 1 minute, and then after that 1 minute, it's per second. Discounts, basically on the instances, AWS has spot, and they also have a regular and block approach, whereas GCP calls it a preemptible instance. In the sense that that it's not an auction like you would typically see in AWS. It's pretty much Google gives you the lowest price for that VM, and you have up to 24 hours to use it, and you need to be aware that it could be preempted at any time when Google needs the resource. Discounts could also be reserved. AWS is reserved, but Google calls it committed use. Now, one of the big differentiators with Google is that you don't have to prepay for that 1 year or 3 year commitment. This is a big difference. Whereas in AWS, you're required to prepay for that term. Savings, of course, could be prepaid in a discount. Google is up to 80%. And there's no prepaid contract requirements. You basically agree to a committed use contract, but you don't have to prepay for it. And then there's also another one that's listed, but AWS does not have anything similar, and it's called an inferred instance. Now, inferred instances for billing purposes are going to be in a situation or a scenario where, for example, a company might have a number of VMs being used by different projects or different users that are in the same zone. And as long as they're the same type of machine, Google automatically brings them together and gives you the greater discount. Again, nothing needs to be done there. It's done automatically. Google does discount their resources steeply. There's no question about that. You're billed for 1 minute and thereafter every second. You do get a lower price for preemptive instances, and when you deploy that image in the demo, you'll see how that works. It's very straightforward. The longer term, of course, the greater the discount. Custom images are also discounted as well. Some other notes that you may want to just refresh your memory. And this is really sort of what we just talked about, but I put it in a different format just for folks for study purposes in case you want that. I would recommend you do go to some of the links I have down here. I'm going to talk about Recommendation Engine here in a minute. Now, Compute Engine provides recommendations to help you optimize your resource utilization. Now, the recommendations are generated automatically, and what's great is that there's nothing that you have to do as a customer to enable this. It's going to let you know if you spin up VMs and the resources are just not being utilized. So if it sees that over a period of several days, usually depends on the usage percentage and the activity. It could be anywhere from a couple days to 8 days is usually what it may take. I've seen it come back as quick in 2 days. Like if it sees that you spun up a VM and it's not being utilized for 2 days, it pops up automatically. But the algorithm is really based on an average of about 8 days, it seems, from what it says in the documentation. The feature is known as right sizing as well. So it's going to right size your VMs for you. And in the demo, you'll see this. It's pretty straightforward. It'll pop up under your VMs, under recommendation here. You could save $16. And if you just go ahead and select that, it'll learn more. It'll go ahead and prompt you to go ahead and reconfigure that VM. Here's a test tip. Understand the pricing strategies on the exam. You will get probably a question. I saw one that I do remember, and it was mainly focused on what type of instance a customer should use to provide the greatest efficiency. Once again, if you have a development customer that just wants to run batch files or drop files in a bucket, then probably Inferred is perfectly fine. On the other hand, if you have customers that need to have a dedicated VM and they know that they're going to use it for 3 years, then maybe they need to go with the reserved instance. So know the use case, that's the main point. The second point is understand that recommendation engine is a feature of Compute Engine and provides right sizing. Let's move on.